Greetings, Goddess Body Mind Spirit community. This is your Goddess Guru, Tyrone Milade, here to share a word of inspiration with you on your path to self-realization and self-mastery. Today is July 15th. It's the day before the eclipse. And I just had some thoughts come to my mind that I wanted to put out. My week is going to be a little bit busy. And so I am sharing these in case someone needs them. I have a new setup, so I'm trying to get used to it. This is my microphone. So I've talked about the eclipse extensively. I'm wishing you all a great eclipse. And so what I wanted to do today is sort of share some thoughts that have come to me. One in particular is about really maximizing the energy of Mercury. I am coming to realize the importance astrologically of the planet Mercury, of the third house. And where is the third house ruler? So some of that, you need to know a little bit about astrology. And if you don't, you either need to learn through taking a course or you can get your chart read, which y'all know I look at astrology charts. So I got you covered if you need that. But one of the things I've learned about Mercury and that third house ruler is that really the third house is the house of self-made wealth. And Mercury or Gemini is the energy that sets the tone for that third house. And the third house is about the skills that you have. And if you have the right skills, then you can get to where you want to go. And it's also about where the mind is. It's like it tells what colors your mind, sort of like what kind of mind you have. And when you are working with the mind and you have the mind programmed properly, I'm going through my website and slowly but surely taking everything down. And I'm going to build my website again. And I found something that I wrote a long time ago on brain training. And that's really and truly what, to me, understanding this third house and Mercury and the ruler of the third house, that's what it's all about. It's about realizing our brains do what we let it do. When you look at what Sebek from the Metunetter says, it says that Sebek, it goes either way. Whoever Sebek is hanging around, that's what Sebek's going to be like. So someone who's Sebekian, if they're hanging around people that are talking about cars, that's what Sebek's going to talk about. If they're hanging around people who are talking about writing, that's what Sebek's going to talk about. And so Sebek is sort of like monkey see, monkey does, monkey do, I should say. And it just sort of goes with the flow. And that lets us know just how impressionable our minds are. And so we're in Mercury retrograde right now. Right now, today, it's in the sign of Leo, and it's going to move back into Cancer eventually. And all I was thinking about was, this is a time where we should be looking at inspiration, and we need to be thinking about having a mind that is inspired. And that's one of the things I wanted to come on and talk about today is making sure that your mind is inspired. And this is not something that just happens. We have to go out of our way to have an inspired mind. So just like we have to go out of our way to make sure that we are eating food that is good for us, to make sure that we're getting exercise that is good for us, that we're getting enough sleep, doing all these things for our physical body, we have to do the same thing for our minds. We have to find ways to keep our minds healthy, to keep our minds inspired. We have to get a mental health check every now and again. Like, the women do their booby checks. We do our booby checks. We all need to be doing mental health checks on a regular basis. We all need to have practices, and not necessarily spiritual, but just anything that's good for the mind. And so I was thinking that it would be good for me to remind everybody to make sure that you use affirmations. Um, First, we have to see, what is our mind affirming? What is our mind wrapped around? What is our mind inclined to do? How is our mind inclined to be? And then we have to see, what do I need to affirm? First of all, maybe what we should see is, what are we affirming that's negative, that doesn't support where we want to go? Because we know what you think about, you bring about. So if your mind is wrapped around, I can't, I'm not enough, or whatever it is that our minds wrap around that keep us stuck in our stumble, we need to be able to identify that. And then we have to make the choice to put something else in there, to reprogram our minds. This is a beautiful thing as a human. It can be programmed however we want it to be programmed, positively or negatively. And so I just encourage you all to use this time while Mercury is in retrograde to look at what's there and how do you need to reprogram yourself. How does your mind need to be upgraded and given something more positive? And it might be that you need to withdraw from certain conversations. It may be that you need to stop looking at certain things and listening to certain things. And it could be conversations with people that you really enjoy and or that you really love and care about. It could be things that you're watching that you know, really enjoy. Because sometimes we create this because it's actually, we enjoy the negativity. But if you're finding that you're not inspired, you're not moving in the direction that you want to move in, then working with the energy of, one of the things I was going to say is working with the energy of this eclipse. Capricorn is the same as Sekert. These energies are about boundaries. And so we need to put certain boundaries around our minds. And I call those boundaries affirmations. Geminian energy is like short. It's small, bits and bots. And so that's what I love about affirmations, having something to affirm, something to grab onto, something quick to say, to get your mind to shift in the direction of your destiny, to shift in the direction of Iwa good character, to shift you in the direction of the truth of who and what you are. Having these kinds of affirmative statements and having this reprogramming go on in our mind is our way of putting a boundary in place. Another way of looking at it, like I said, is I'm putting a boundary up against certain conversations. I'm putting a boundary up, looking at certain things or listening to certain things, whatever it is. I'm putting a boundary up from, when you go down that negative place of stinking thinking, the boundary will be what? Like, how will you stop yourself from going down that path? How will you catch yourself? And even that takes awareness and discipline. So that's one of the things I wanted to say. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the Ashe, and like talking about how Mercury and Gemini in particular, to a certain degree, Virgo, they are about our skills. And how if we really work to hone the skills that we are naturally good at and find a way to utilize those skills, or maybe there's something you need to do. So like for me, in order for me to learn how to have a YouTube channel, there's certain things I have to do in order to learn how to do that. So I have to go take classes, and typically with Gemini, it's a workshop. It's some type of course. It's not going to last a long time. Sometimes it might last, a couple of weeks or, a couple of months or something like that, but it's not long term. And you pick up a skill that helps you to move forward in life. And so what really brought this on, as I was thinking about it, is when we talk about Eshu is the keeper of our Ashe. And so if we get ourselves on the path to developing our skills and using them in a way that is taking us somewhere forward in the right direction, of course, then we're not wasting our Ashe. A lot of us are wasting our Ashe, taking care of everybody else. That's what Cancer, to a certain degree, that's what Cancer tells us, And then this Mars being in this, excuse me, in Leo is all about our passions. And so a lot of us are passionate for helping everybody but ourselves. I'm one of those people. I'm not, judging anybody. I just know the more I help people and I'm not focused on developing my skills, let me say this first. The Ashe is our life force energy. And we have to look at where are we sending out our life force energy. And what we need to be doing is taking that life force energy and focusing it in on what is it that we need. First of all, what is the vision? And what is it that we need to do to get to the vision? And a lot of times it's developing skills and applying those skills in the direction of the goal of the vision. And a lot of us, though, are wasting our life force energy. We're being very Sebekian. Whatever shows up, that's what we're going with. Instead of being like Ogun Herakahuti, who is saying, look, focus on your passions. Focus on home. This is what Ogunda teaches. Focus on home, and you are home. Focus on family, and you are family. The people who are closest to you that you're responsible for. Or maybe family is your business. Home is you and what you have been given the responsibility to manifest in this life. And so if we would take time to, instead of be out here, wasting our ashe or spending it out, instead take that ashe and spend it on yourself by developing your skills and infusing your talents in there with those skills. I'm naturally animated and it's just doing what I am. I always knew I could do a little acting thing. I have this little way, the sun in the fifth house of mine, it has some charisma about it, right? That's all well and good. I've got to mix this with the skill to be able to make videos that are worthy of people watching, right? So, instead of us expending our ashe out in the world, sending it out, what we need to do is to find a way, as we work with this energy of Capricorn, which is about structure, to put some structure, put some boundaries around our ashe. One boundary is I'm not helping nobody with their project until I help myself with my project. Here's another boundary. I said I was going to have A, B, C, and D done by fill in the blank. And until that's done, I will not do anything else. I'm going to take my ashe and focus it on what I said I'm going to focus it on. And when it's time for me to give to the world, then I will do it at the appropriate time, right? But our ashe should be enhancing our lives, our destiny, and taking us in the direction we're supposed to go, and not just be feeding everyone else's and helping everybody else. That's something that I think people like me look up one day like, oh, I've done a lot to help a lot of people, and I'm realizing I haven't moved forward. I'll give y'all an example. When I first noticed this, after I had children, I just was all in with the kiddos or whatever. And I was watching American Idol. I watched the first season. Who won? I don't even remember now. I watched the second season. By the third season, I think it was Fantasia. It was either Ruben or Fantasia. By the third season, one night I'm sitting there dialing in, voting for one of them. And I'm like, hold up. This is the third season. Somebody that I voted for has won. And I'm still sitting here with student loan debt and not a lot of money in the bank, really not profiting from this at all. I turned American Idol off. I said, I'll never watch it again. And I did not. Now, I may have seen headlines about who was winning or whatever. But I've never watched another show like that again. Don't cast votes. Don't do nothing. No way. I'm putting my shade on me. And that's not to say I've been perfect at it. I have been imperfect at this thing. But that's why we give thanks for the Orisha giving us these kinds of messages. So really and truly look at developing your skills. That's a form of being passionate about something, developing the skills that you need in order to move you closer towards your destiny. And it does not all the time take a lot of money to get these skills that we need to get. All right. We can call on our ancestors to help us move forward, y'all. There's no excuse that I'm accepting from anybody. Guess what? I've used all of them, and the ancestors are like, not acceptable. We ain't live for you to go out like this, honey. All right. So we're going to need you to get up on this and get this straight. We need you to get these skills. We need you to do what you need to do because your destiny dictates it. All right. The last thing I would say is, and it's interesting, it actually kind of goes together. I hadn't tied it together until just right now, is, Capricorn is about mastery. And I'm going to put out this series on self-mastery. But I really and truly, and I think it's so neat after I really started thinking about it, that I have wanted to put out this series on keys to self-mastery. And I just hadn't done it, but here we are in Capricorn eclipse time. And I was able to come up with it. It was like it just poured out. I made all 4 videos, So I know it has to be connected to this season of Capricorn where we're stepping into self-mastery. And typically before we step into self-mastery, though, we've got to get those skills and we've got to start using them and using them and using them. And that's what Capricorn is about. You do this thing over and over and over. And Capricorn doesn't care that it's day in and day out, because Capricorn knows this is what you have to do to get to where you want to go. So you do this thing over and over and over until it's perfected and you are the master. And so combining the skills with doing this thing over and over and over again to get to where you want to go. And this is why we're allowing the energy of Capricorn to shore us up all year long. All right. And so this is just an installation, because more to come. This is an installation of a quickening, an installation of Capricorn giving us her medicine so that we can get it and keep it. That's the thing about Capricorn. What Capricorn gives, you're going to be able to keep it. And so we're wanting to master living. We're wanting to master whatever it takes for us to master to get to where we're trying to go, to achieve our goals. And it will start off by mastering this Sebek aspect and really using Mercury to our benefit. Sometimes people think it's that Jupiterian energy that is like the greatest. We're thinking about the Obatala, the Tahuti, the Ma'a energy. It's sitting up high and it's so wise and so wise. Yeah, well, sometimes the energy is so wise, but it's like there was a path to there. That's the best way I can say it. There is a path to that higher wisdom. And it is, in fact, Mercury. All right. Eshu, how are we going to get to that wisdom? Through Eshu Allegua. So we need to be keeping up with Mercury a whole lot more. You want to work with Eshu Allegua? This is one of the ways. Work with the planet that's associated with the messenger planet. Work with Mercury and do what Mercury says do. Right now, Mercury says you should be doing some reviewing and you need to be looking at your mind to see what you need to get together. What boundaries do you need in there to keep you on the straight and narrow? What skills do you need to be working on to become that master that you want to be? Because, here's another example. There's a lot of smart people out there. People will say they have no common sense. The people who are the researchers, They do great research, but they're not the clinicians that the hands-on. That's Mercury. It's the hands. The hands-on, the clinicians are the ones that are like actually going to implement what the science finds. And guess what? The science is not going to translate clinically, just like absolutely, I guess is what I'll say. Because clinically, we know anything will show up. So it takes both. It literally, in order to become the master, you really and truly got to start over here with getting the skills. And this is spiritually, but I'm really talking in terms of tangibly the things that we want to manifest in our lives, feeling good, feeling successful. We need to be focused on Mercury. Where's Mercury right now? Where's Mercury in your chart? What sign is on the third house? So say, for instance, you are Aries rising. I tell you all the time, you need to know your rising sign. Let's say you're Aries rising and you they have Gemini on the third house. Mercury rules Gemini. So the ruler of Gemini is where in your chart? Because it's not necessarily in Gemini. It could be in any of the other 11 signs. So where is Mercury? So if the ruler of the third house, say for instance, is in the fifth house, that's going to tell you some extra information about the skills. Let's say the ruler of the third house is in the 12th house. That tells you something about the kind of skills that you are inclined to sort of like naturally want to know and work with. And that third house is going to tell you these are the things you really need to be thinking about in terms of business. And if you watch yourself, you'll be like, you know what? That is me. That is me. Now, I'm talking whole sign for those of y'all that understand this. If you don't understand what I'm saying, don't worry about it. But I'm talking whole sign. But I find that Placidus or the unequal houses, they show another level. We're not one-dimensional, we're multidimensional. And so I like looking at both because from Placidus, my third house is like non-existent almost because it's intercepted. I have a very skewed chart. And so my sun is in the third house in Placidus. Crazy, it's in the fifth house in whole sign. Both are correct. I pull from both. So you need to know what is, Mercury. I'm talking about Mercury right now, not the third house ruler, but Mercury. And see, there's no third house ruler. If like one of my houses is two of my houses completely intercepted. That's one of the reasons I like whole sign, because I don't like the intercepted houses. I just don't like it. I use the chart to learn about myself because it really is on point. That Placidus is on point. But so is the whole sign. And so my third house ruler in my whole sign chart is in the seventh house. And that tells me a lot about why I do what I do and why I like what I like and why I'm inclined to do what I'm inclined to do. And it helps me to understand how I need to be developing myself. And you can learn the same thing too, But guess what? One scripture from Christianity that I've always remembered is study to show thyself approved. And that is Mercury, because Mercury is about learning. And that is Saturn, Capricorn, Sekert. So y'all, come on, let's do this. So that's my gumbo for you in this particular video. I talked about Mercury and Eshu Alegua, the Ashe. I talked about Saturn and self-mastery and just how, spiritually we need to be on point, but why are we in this physical body if we're not going to come here and manifest something, boo? Huh? So this is Tyrone Milade. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that this has been helpful for you. Feel free to go to Patreon and look for that post that I made about brain training, patreon.com/goddess body mind spirit. And if you want me to look at your chart and find out more about your Mercury, third house and third house ruler, you can go request a reading. Just request a general reading at goddessbodymindspirit.com. And I'd love the divine on your behalf. You can go to my spiritual readings page. That's where you learn more about it. So wishing y'all a great day. Y'all take care. Love y'all. Happy solstice. Peace.